Hello and welcome back to Back at the Ranch. I'm Mud Carl, your co-host, helping Jess out this season. With me today, we have Bambi. Bambi was eliminated last night, so let's dig a little deeper and just try to figure out, what you've been thinking this whole game. Now, before we start, actually, for the people who don't know this yet, Bambi and I actually know each other. We are co-workers. Bambi is a graduate student in the lab that I work in. So, Bambi, first of all, how did I con you into getting into this?
I literally have no idea how you conned me. It started with honestly, you describing your season and how you were playing and how into it you were, and I guess I just wanted to do something different and new, and this was pretty different for me. But it all started with just apply, just see, just to submit a tape, and then I submit a tape, and then here we are.
Yeah, we're basically almost 3 weeks later. Well, 3 weeks after the game officially started, and you've made it really, really far. Honestly, I did not expect you to make it that far. So bravo to you, Unfortunately, you didn't make it to the end, but you had fun, and that's what matters, right?
Yeah. And I made it as far as I would honestly hope, because honestly, I just wanted to be your position. But actually, I just really wanted to be on the jury. That was my goal.
Okay. All right. Well, so let's start talking about the actual experience. Day 0. You start, expedition starts basically on day 0, where you guys are told you're meeting, it's just a meeting to explain the rules of the game and meet your fellow competitors. And you guys at this point already knew that the team captains of the season were going to be Janet and Kelly. But what you guys did not know is while you guys were talking, Janet and Kelly were picking teams based on your audition tapes. And so you were part of the first round of people drafted by the legend herself, Kelly Wentworth. Now, I know the answer to this, but please tell people, did you know who Kelly was at this point?
I had no idea who Kelly was. I was just okay, cool. None of it meant anything to me. I was literally either Janet or Kelly could have picked me, and I would have been here I am. I don't know what any of this means.
Well, you did have some time to talk to Kelly after the draft, a little bit before the end of the night 0, I guess. How was that interaction? You may not have known the legend that she was, but at least you got to meet her a little bit. And how was that first impression on of your captain?
Well, I pretty much was gauging how other people were reacting to Kelly, because we met within the group, right? And so everyone else was super excited. So I was okay, cool. I'm here, but it's just it literally did it didn't faze me at all.
So first of all, can you tell people what was the first season I gave you as homework when I first told you to sign up on the show?
Season 20, Heroes versus Villains.
All right. And who were your favorites on that one?
Okay, well, obviously I love Sandra. She's a Puerto Rican queen. But I low-key lived for Russell because he was so chaotic.
Okay. And that's not only natural. We love chaos here. So
yeah, so... I literally cannot get over the scene where he hides the machete. I just live for
it. Well, yeah. So basically, also just to be clear, you have been assigned more homework now that the show is over. Well, your part of the show is over. You will be watching all the Kelly Wentworth season before the reunion. Okay, so Kelly, I got you. That being said, you guys, after talking for a little bit, you guys turn in for the night. And day 1, the first official day, you guys have your first challenge. You would hope at this point, I guess, that you don't have to go into Crossroad. You want the cushion, I guess, of not having to go to Crossroad so that you can build on these relationships, specifically because you hadn't gotten to speak to anyone on day 0, and let alone even less, basically no one from the actual tribe you ended up on. So how important was winning that challenge for you? And when you did lose that challenge, what was your approach to the strategy session?
So like going into it, I was just like, I really don't care at all. I was just so apathetic about the whole thing. And I really hated how I like could not get a handle on like holding the forks with the rubber band at all. And it really bothered me more that I was so much more like better in the practice, like leading up to the challenge. And then during the challenge, I was like, not I literally could not knock anything down. I was aiming correctly and it would hit the cup, but it did not like knock it over. So I was just super annoyed with that. But like, you know, ultimately our team had to go to Crossroads. And so I was very like nervous about it, but I also wasn't like really trying too hard in the beginning of Crossroads to like save myself because I wasn't invested. Still, I was just like, what the hell? Like, it would suck to be the first one eliminated, but then at least I could go back to my normal life, right? And so, like, really, like, it was pretty much me and Jess stuck at base camp. And then eventually I heard that, like, my name's out there since I was one of the 6 people who didn't, like, knock anything down, which is kind of like, I get it, but also, like, how dare you? Like, there were 5 other people who couldn't knock something down, and you're going after like the 2 like weaklings, like in their minds, right? Because like it's me and Jess, and I guess we didn't showcase what we had to offer, as well as I guess other people did because they got to interact with other people on day 0, right?
Yeah.
And so from that I was like trying to find a space where I could jump into one of the breakout rooms, but it was so difficult. And then finally I like weasel my way into one, and finally I meet up with Bridget and Cupini, and eventually Mariana, who finally tell me that, you know, like, well, Bridget and Cupini were like, we like Bambi, we want to keep her. And so they were vouching for me, which was so like amazing because I really never got to talk to them. So it was just like cool that they like stuck their neck out for me like that. And then they like clued me in on who like everyone was voting for. And so it's like, okay, bet it's not me. I live another day.
Now, do you think you know why they gravitated more towards you over Jess per se? Like, did they ever explain to you why that was?
Yeah, so like we were like kind of like the young ones, like the college students, like of the group. And
Ageism.
So whatever. But like little do they know, like I graduated college like 4 years ago.
You just look young. It's a compliment.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think like from that day 1 interaction, I was able to build up an alliance with Mariana Cupini and
Okay.
Bridget. But I felt like our alliance was like me, Bridget, and Cupini. But I have no idea if that was ever true because I never really got
Yeah, you never really got to test it because on day 2, you guys win the challenge, so you don't have to vote anyone out. Now, before we move to day 3, where twists start happening, I do have a few questions for you for day 2. First of all, Katie is voted to Serrated Peak, and she brings with her Bridget. Now, at this point, do you have any idea what the Serrated Peak is implying? Is there talk about it at camp? And then number 2, did Bridget tell you anything about it once she came back?
Yeah, so like I literally had no idea what the meaning of Serrated Peak really was at all. I didn't know like there was even a possibility of any advantage. So I guess she told us a version of the truth.
Okay.
But she told us that Katie pretty much had the advantage and like Jess was pissed off at her and like honestly all of Team Kelly. But like later on I come to find out that from Katie's side, you know, that Bridget was telling her to say certain things to her tribe so that way the advantage could be saved.
Okay, so then you also had the introduction, I guess, before of Destiny's token. Now, did at any point in the first 2 days, did that come into the decision making? Were people afraid that people would be using this? Like, were people talking about it earlier on in the game?
I really, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, yeah, like, day one, right? People were shocked that Jess didn't use her Destiny's token at all.
Were you shocked?
No, because it's like, it's day one. Like, why even bother? I don't know. Like, I was just kind of indifferent to it. It's like, it didn't really matter to me. And like, my name was on the line. And like, if I didn't make it past day one, then I wanted to save it for something important.
Yeah. Little did you know that even if you had lost on day one, you probably would have a chance. You would have had a chance to come back in the game. Say it would not have been over for you, even if you had lost on day one.
Right.
But woulda, coulda, shoulda. That didn't happen. That said, on day three, new twist. Not only are you being swapped, there's a party swap, but you guys are swapped into 3 new teams. And so the team sizes, the party sizes are now significantly lower, which makes it even, well, you could say easier to get a new majority. And so it makes it more difficult, and players' situation in the game become a little bit more precarious. You end up in a party where you have a majority, right? You end up with Mariana, and Cupini, right? Yeah, Mariana and Cupini with Danielle and Olivia. So you must have been happy, I guess, at this point to be seeing Olivia because you had that relationship, that bond with her. Now, was the reunion as smooth and happy as one would think from your perspective, or was it were you a little apprehensive when you got reunited with Olivia?
Yeah, I was a little apprehensive because I didn't think that to like rely on my day zero connections that early. I was just like, it is what it is, I was nervous because I knew I had to miss Friday's challenge due to a family obligation. And so I was like, I know it's gonna be me on the line the following day. But the first day of the party swap, we came in second, and it didn't matter.
You didn't have to, so you definitely have that
Right.
cushion.
Yeah, and so like we were all talking, and like since I knew in advance I was going to miss the next day, I was like just debating the entire time in my head, like, do I bring this up? Do I like ask for someone to be in a breakout room with me? Like, how do I play this? And like, I just like didn't want to be so shady in doing the breakout rooms because no one else was doing it when like the party won, right? Everyone was like coasting and chilling. And so, and this was true for every party I was in. If you won, then you were coasting. And so there was no need for any breakout rooms. I thought that if I was to pull a move like, hey, so and so go to a breakout room with me, then I would be risking my name for being eliminated the next day since I wasn't going to be there. And so I just kind of had to hope for the best. But literally, I saw the time was like 10:59. I was like, hey guys, I'm going to be missing tomorrow. So sorry. And if you guys have to vote me out, that's okay. But just wanted to give you a heads up. And so like we had no discussion afterward.
Well, okay. So then basically that's basically day 4. Not only do you not make it, but your party ends up having to vote someone out. But Philip decides to save Mariana, and it ends up being basically Cupini by himself, but you are still eligible for voting. And for some reason, it doesn't end up being you. Now, I know you weren't there, so you don't really know exactly what happened that day, but how shocked were you when you found out that you were still in the game?
I was so shocked. I was like, this is my chance, like I had a good run. I mean, at this point I was fully invested, but I like throughout the day, like the work day, I was like becoming okay with the idea of me being eliminated because I was kind of 100% sure that I would be. And so the fact that I checked my email like late night Friday that I'm still in the game, I was like, what? how's this even possible? And so I was like kind of just nervous. I was like, I wonder who they voted out. And I thought it would for sure be, if I was safe, I thought it would for sure be Danielle.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting too, because the day after that happened, we had a lab thing together, outing, I guess, or dinner, lab dinner. And first of all, I didn't even know that they had told you that you were still in the game. So I thought I was gonna have to, like, keep it shut the whole night. But they told you, so at least I knew you knew that. But then on top of that, you didn't know who got voted out. And so I was like, you kept asking me too. And I was like, I can't tell you, which was basically the story of our lives for the whole 3 weeks. But that's another story. Okay, so then it ends up being Cupini. The next day, there's another twist. And of course, party swap again. You guys are basically reshuffled into 2 parties. But little do you know, there's a third party coming in, and it's all the returning players. Now,
Right.
At this point, was this a surprise for you, or did the information from Serrated Peak had leaked back to you guys in the game? Or for you, this was a complete surprise? You had no idea they were coming back.
This was a complete surprise because, number one, before the party swap, so before the challenge, Mariana kept telling me like, oh, I need to tell you what happened at Serrated Peaks and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I like had a gut feeling that something was going to change, right? Like I wouldn't get a chance to talk to her again. And so I was like, I even asked like right before, I was like, should we break out? And she was like, oh, I'll just tell you like after the challenge. I was like, okay. But I was just like, I regret not being more assertive in that, because I feel like if I developed a better relationship with Mariana, it might have helped my game a little more, but it was really shocking. And then it was like doubly shocking because I don't think I knew that Bridget was also eliminated at that point until I saw her.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, dang, there goes my whole ass alliance. Like Bridget and
I know, right?
Katie.
And also just like former team Kelly just like dwindling in numbers at this point, right? So so is it fair to say you definitely had, because you also found out that out of the returning players, potentially two of them would be able to come back in the game if they win. They come in first place. Now they end up coming in second place, so they only get to vote one person back. But is it fair to say that you had a preference, or you were hoping for certain people to come back at that point over others?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I really wanted either Bridget or Cupini to come back, because I just vibed with them, and I think the fact that they had my back on day one meant a lot to me. And like, I played a very honest and loyal game, and so like yeah, like that was primarily the reason why I like was holding on so tight to them.
Now, so your team ends up actually pulling the win. So you guys come in first place. You don't have to vote for anyone that night, but you end up in a party with Katie, David, Haley, Mike, and Philip.
Okay, at that point, I was, before Mike and I got to be in a breakout room, I was a little hesitant. I was like, is this day zero really a thing? Right? And then I see Philip and I'm like, oh, there's my arch nemesis, right? Because I got it in my
Why arch nemesis though at this point in the game? I mean, I think I know the answer, but
honestly, I think it was a mix of two things. It was the fact that Philip was such a leader in our party, in the original Team Cali, that it really rubbed me the wrong way, because it was like, oh, he's throwing out names, right? And so he must have thrown out my name. And like just the fact that he was like the spokesperson like got me like ticked a little bit. But like as well as like as any like Survivor fan, like usually the one that's like more outspoken in the beginning and like has that leadership role is like kind of a target. And so that was part of the reason. But then my feelings were confirmed by Cupini's feelings for Philip. But Kupini was more vocal about his like supposed like hatred for him.
I, I think I think watching this back, I think I'm gonna get a kick out of like, you know, the Philip hate, and the fact that I feel like it felt so baseless. Like, I was like, why the poor guy? So it's gonna be funny, but hopefully Philip you know, takes it in jest, and like, you know, but like the poor guy did nothing. But I do definitely get, as far as like making a target of yourself for being so vocal, but like to go from that to like, you know, like the Philip hate, I thought was a little extra, but you know.
Well, I mean, like, I just needed someone to, you know,
Yeah,
rag
that's
on.
true. That's also fair. Also fair. You just need to, like, you know, scapegoat, a shield, and perhaps he did serve as a shield for many players. For some more successfully than others, though.
Yeah.
Because there were quite a few. There was one person, Capini specifically, who tried to use Philip as a shield, and unfortunately did not get to, and basically left the game before Philip ever did. Okay, so then on the next day, you guys end up losing the challenge. But when you guys get back to the base camp, there's this discussion that night where a lot of you guys don't think that the player voted out that night would actually be going out. And so you guys end up voting for Philip, but you also end up getting some votes thrown your way.
Well, obviously, being one of the two Kelly members in a primarily Team Janet party, you know, like, it was obviously between me and Philip, obviously. And like, you know, the advantage of sending Philip out there for me is that in case someone is eliminated, right? Because we didn't know what was happening, that it wouldn't be me. And then if no one was eliminated, then Philip would be able to trust me, right? Because I remember during that you know, before I guess Crossroads, when we like voted for someone, Philip asked me to be in a breakout room with him, and he asked me straight up, he was like, Bambi, tell me, am I being voted out, right? And I legit was like, I can't lie, because a part of me wanted to lie and give him some hope, but I was just like, I can't give you hope. Like,
I remember that. I was actually in that room when that happened. I was watching it happen. I was like, oh no, Bambi, Reva, what are you doing? You do realize like getting signed up for, but then that's also like, but I did know you can't lie, because you actually can't lie, or like, yeah, you know, the best you can do is perhaps omit, but even then you're a little sketchy.
Yeah, so, I know. It just doesn't work for me. And so like in the beginning, you could see me smiling pretty hard. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to lie, but I can't because I'm smiling. But anyway, I just tell him the straight up honest truth. And I was like, this is my best bet, that if he stays, he knows he can trust me. Mm-hmm. And he knows I was kind of forced to play to vote him out. And I honestly didn't care if he had an advantage or not. Or if he was gonna be on the other team, because I was confident in my abilities to like hold up the team. Because I mean, if you look at my record from that point and, you know, previously, like, I was holding my own pretty well, and so I was like, I am comparable to Philip's ability.
Okay, so then on the following night, you guys ended up winning the challenge. So why don't we just go straight to the rendezvous night, which is the following night. You guys combine into one party, and at this point, the winner of the first challenge was Joshua. And so who do you go to at this point in the game, now that you guys have rendezvoused, to make sure that you survive another night?
Yeah, so my main thing was to survive another night. I wasn't really thinking about my game for the next day. Yeah, I was very short-term minded, like just whatever takes me to the next day. And so, and on top of that, you know, I had a couple weird alliances in my mind that could pan out, right? Because like here we have the original team, Kelly, Philip, me, and Mariana. And then I have my connections with Mike and Olivia day 0. And so I needed to see where I fit in, because I also had connections with Haley and David because we were in a party just recently together. And so I was just trying to figure out where everyone was thinking about voting. And, quickly I learned, Philip has an advantage. I didn't realize it was from going to Serrated Peaks.
Well, no, so he had two advantages at that point. One
Oh,
that he
right,
had
right.
won for winning the challenge. I'm coming first. I'm doing the best performance at the challenge. And then the other one he had won from Serrated Peak. So he had a
half a token.
He had half a compass. Yeah.
Yeah, and
then the other one I can't tell you because it may affect the remaining of the game.
No,
so
it was like steal a vote or like take
yeah, so you know about it. Okay.
Yeah, no, I just totally forgot because I never realized or like really figured out when people were getting these advantages.
Okay.
Which, for the record, I'm a little upset I didn't get any single advantage whatsoever.
Listen, you played a game that doesn't require advantages, okay? And that's a G move, okay? Some, yeah, okay. Right. So some people made it to the end because they had advantages. Others made it very far without advantages. That's a game to respect as well, so.
Fair enough. But yeah, so like, I remember we were all scrambling towards the end, right? And I remember this key moment. Philip comes to me, he tells me what his like advantages are, and he tells me or I learned somehow that it's between Philip and David. And I was very confused where to vote because I really like David, and I realized because I had only watched one season of Survivor and I was trying to model my game after Sandra, and I realized Philip was my Russell. And I was like, I need to keep him if I want to win at the end, right? But I realized I played myself in the previous party because I was like trash talking Philip the entire time. And so I made him a target to save myself because, again, I wasn't thinking long term. I was thinking, what can I do to make it to the next day, right? And so I was very, very flustered. And then last minute, Philip is like, well, if David has a compass, let's go after Haley. And I'm like, okay. And in my head, I knew no one was going to fucking vote for or freaking vote for Haley. No one. So I was just like, okay, no one's voting for Haley, but I think that's my best move is to vote for Haley because in case Philip does stick around, he knows I listened to him. And then I can always reason myself with Haley saying like, sorry about it. And, try to, make amends with her and therefore David, because Haley and David appear to be a strong alliance. And so I knew I had to vote away from the rest.
You were trying to keep your hands clean. That said, you ended up at a night that basically started off, let's get rid of Bambi. You ended up, no one was talking about Bambi by the end of the night. It was all David and Philip. So you managed to do something pretty cool. And in fact, you managed to do that almost every night. Now, I don't know whether or not it was a serious attempt at getting rid of you every night, but by the end of the night, regardless of like the fact that the first name out of people's mouth was Bambi, by the end of the night, it was almost never Bambi. So you got to, credit where credit is due. The other thing I wanted to ask you about that night specifically was the post vote pre-vote count, because y'all were messy. Like, so you guys had the longest, like I've never seen so much time go between the actual vote and the counting of the votes, because you guys would just go on monologues or like dialogues between the vote. And so this particular night, we had two things happen. First, David and Katie talking about a compass that he supposedly got from her. So how did you feel about that interaction?
I didn't really know what alliances were really on the other side until Rendezvous, and I realized Katie, David, and Haley were kind of a thing. And I heard that Katie gave David her compass, and so I was like, oh, that was nice of her, right? And like, it, and just like at Crossroads, it really seemed like David was asking her for permission, several times, and he wanted to make sure. And like, I thought he was being respectable because it wasn't his compass.
Okay.
And so I think overall it was like a nice gesture. And I think, he was potentially on the chopping block. And so,
Well, he was. I mean,
yeah.
he had less votes, so it was kind of a waste of a compass. But nonetheless, he was very
Right.
much the second option. So he was right to be afraid. The other big thing that happened also was Philip begging Joshua to combine their compasses, and Joshua, in a very theatrical manner, saying no. Did you feel any kind of special way about that, or were you entertained?
Oh, I was very much entertained by the drama, but I was like, okay, calm down, Joshua. Like, this is a game. But and like a part of that whole, calming down of Joshua, I felt bad for Philip because I'm like, I mean, I know what I said to like the people in my party about Philip, but I didn't think it was that bad. I just said he was a really strong player and you don't want him around post Rendezvous. So I don't know why Joshua said what he said, because it seemed very like antagonistic of Philip, and I never saw Philip like in like a very harsh way. I just knew he was a strong player and he was my biggest threat.
Yeah, well, so Joshua was eliminated. So I think I can share with you that Joshua was purposely was trying to be well, it did that on purpose. He was trying to make a villain of himself so that people would be like, no one's gonna vote for him. Let's keep him and bring him to the final with us if needed be. And so at least that's what he says he was trying to do. Now, whether or not that was achieved, I'm not sure, because a lot of people I feel like it didn't get as much of a visceral reaction from people because so much had gone down, and the whole
Right.
Katie and David drama sucked a lot of air out of the room. So
Right. Well, I mean, like I kind of forgot about that thing. Like the whole Joshua attacking Philip thing the next day. Like it was just like,
yeah, exactly, right? Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm not sure that it quite worked the way Joshua intended it to. And so but that's basically the intention he had in that moment. Okay, so moving on to the next day, where I believe Haley wins the challenge. Now, did you have a chance to talk to Haley about you voting for her?
I went straight to her because I can't lie. And I wasn't going to try to hide. I went straight to her and I was like, hey, listen, I voted for you. I knew no votes were coming to you. I just couldn't make the decision between Philip and David. And I knew I could mend things more easily with you versus anyone else.
Do you think she believed you?
I don't think she believed me. I think she wanted to believe me, but I think there was some doubt. But also, like
Do you
I
think
wanted.
that's fair? Would you not say that's fair?
Oh, that's 100%
Okay.
fair. But also, like, what did she expect? She voted for me one time, and so I had to get her back, right?
Tit
And
for tat, Rima.
so I kind of use that
Yeah.
as like a like, hey, you voted for me, now I vote for you. It's
Okay.
over. Like, let's actually work together, kind of
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
And so like, I think she wanted to believe me, but I think in her heart she couldn't because of like that thing. But when she won, I pretty much went straight for her. I was like, hey, I'm on your side. Like, I'm trying to prove it to you.
Well, so this is actually very interesting because I noticed that this is when you guys have started this really interesting pattern where every time someone would win, you would vote for somewhat of an ally of that person, right?
Yeah.
Well, at least for the next few nights, that's what ends up happening. And then also you guys start targeting the groups, the trios and the duos. Now we had a trio in Haley, Katie, and David. So the night Haley wins, you guys end up voting for Katie, and unanimously as well.
Right.
Now, from your perspective, what was that unanimous vote about? If it was a referendum, what was the message you guys were trying to send to your leaders?
It was primarily because Katie was such a wild card and we couldn't get a good read on what she would do, like how she would vote, and whether or not we could really trust her. Especially when, before Rendezvous, when the vote was between me and Philip, she pretty much said she just did eeny, meeny, miny, mo and voted for me. And so I think that rubbed people the wrong way when they heard about it. But also on top of that, like, it appeared to, like, for a lot of people that Katie holds grudges. Like, she is pretty sensitive because she was still talking about the way, like, her and Bridget's interaction was. And so we were like, I think everyone was under the same consensus that, this is a game, we're playing for fun, and like you're definitely gonna have to burn some bridges, and that's just part of the game. And I think we all understood that, and it didn't seem like Katie was picking up on the same message.
Okay. And it was also provided you guys a way to vote for someone very easily and get another night in the game, right? So I mean, I totally get that. It's an easy vote, everyone survives for an extra day, but y'all did that on the night of a reunion, and you knew she was missing the reunion for that.
No, I definitely
that was rude to say.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it was like a D bag of a move. I definitely agree with that. I didn't like voting. No, I don't think anyone enjoyed voting for her. It was such a hard decision, especially because she had to miss.
I love Katie. I'm a big Team Kate, #Team Katie. I get Katie on all the shows. So I have to stand up for her for a second here.
Well, so. I mean, like, I definitely enjoyed my time with Katie. And I don't know if you noticed, but like a lot of the times when a lot of people were strategizing in the breakout rooms, I was left behind with Katie. And we would just talk, and just shoot the shit. Like, we didn't really strategize together. And so I really got to know her. And she, was very, like, much like kind of like a life mentor for me. Like, she would give me good advice. And it's like, she's honestly the sweetest person. And so,
yes, definitely. Okay, so the next day, David wins. And so you guys get rid of his closest ally left in the game, Haley. Now,
you guys, excuse you.
The party does. That's true, because you ended up voting for Joshua. Now, how did the party end up split between Haley and Joshua? And who do you blame for not going with the plan that you had, which was to get rid of Joshua?
Okay, I literally was completely out of the loop, but I just want to put it out there, like. Honestly, a lot of the times I felt out of the loop and I had to like struggle to find my way into the loop because it seemed like people were underestimating my gameplay a lot because no one like would really come and talk to me and see like what I wanted to do.
Now we're not going to keep it vague. Who did you feel was keeping you out of the loop, perhaps purposely or just like not even realizing they were doing so?
Well, like I can't remember from that specific day, but I just remember I wasn't able to talk to my day zeros at all, and like Danielle, like it was very fleeting. I remember spending most of my time talking to Haley and David, and like honestly, I struggled to find a room with Carl and Joshua. Like I could never be in contact with them, and it really took me 2 days post Rendezvous to find a room with Josh. And so like I go to base camp because I see Josh is there. As soon as I get there, he jumps into the breakout room that I just left. And so it's like he really didn't want to talk to me at all. And so I don't know. And I think original team Janet's like, they probably had certain alliances like from day one that they were trying to play, but like not really play,
Now, for you who had been in a minority at this point, it's really clear to you that you need to work with the other side.
Right.
How frustrating was it for you at this point in the game that they were giving so little as far as like working with former Team Kellys to get rid of potentially, or not even just not necessarily get rid of them, but working with you guys to pull you guys into moves that they wanted to like to make, even if it was against one another? Like, how frustrating was it for you?
It was really frustrating. Like, I just remember like a lot of the team, original team Janet's like just like didn't really talk to me as much. Like the only person I really truly trusted in was Mike, but I knew strategically I couldn't talk to him as much. And like I think we did a good job of like not showing that that we were talking with each other.
Perhaps you did not show to people that you were talking to each other, but you certainly were the offered up the information that you would do anything Mike did, any occasion you would get.
Whatever. But the thing is, like, I didn't really get to talk to him that much. He would like, we would just check in with each other. That he would tell me how he was voting, and so I would just do what he said. And so I would let the people that I trusted all in on that fact. I'm like, I'm doing this because Mike is the middleman. Like the way I saw it, Mike had it in with everybody. And so because I was next to the middle, I could be like, hey, my people, come here. That's the way I saw it.
Okay, so then Haley and Joshua. Now,
I didn't even know Haley's name was out there.
Oh, wow. That's okay, so then who betrayed you? Because not only was her name out there, she ended up going home that night.
Yeah, I have no idea because I knew I think I didn't get a chance to talk with Mike at all that night. And anytime I went in a room with like, I feel like it was Danielle. At one point I talked with Carl and Joshua. They like literally wouldn't tell me anything. And like, I was mostly flipping between David and Haley. And they were like, we have the votes for Josh. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I remember like we were discussing, I think, Carl's name at one point. But I didn't really think there was going to be a split vote at all.
Okay.
I thought it would be like unanimously Josh. Like I was really out of the loop that day.
Okay. All right. So then on the next night, Olivia ends up winning the challenge, right? Record of like shattering expectations, right? Killing it. And you guys now are targeting the Joshua and Carl duo. Why that duo at that time? Like, how do you think you were able to, or as a party, because the night before, some people were trying to target Carl and Joshua unsuccessfully. This night, successfully. Like, what changed in some people's mind so that they became the target and you guys were able to get rid of Carl that night?
Well, I think we as in the party, or like everyone was going after like really strong alliances and really strong duos. And I guess in their mind, they saw David, Haley, and Katie as a strong three, right? And so it made sense for them to knock them out. And like people were aware that Carl was all about self-preservation. And so he would play where he needed to play, right? And like, I guess like we always knew that Joshua and Carl had a special connection, but it was like a lower priority, I guess. I mean, I just really didn't appreciate that Carl and Joshua kept saying my name every night at the beginning. And like, it got back to me because like, when I met with Carl, like one of the first nights, he seemed really genuine. I was like, oh, I really trust him. And I told Mike this and he was like, don't trust Carl. Like he was saying your name. I was like, what? Because I'm too trusting. And so like I really would have played with Carl if he just kept his mouth shut with like my name out of his mouth.
Carl, I hope you're listening to this.
Because like I really did like Carl and I thought he could have been like a really good ally for me, but I thought also I felt like Josh was like too cunning. Like I feel like he was like a snake a little bit. And like, especially, you know, like after what he did to Philip, like he pretty much at that point he told us he gained Philip's trust and then was like made a show out of it. And so I really didn't like that.
Okay, that's fair. I will say though that the vote that night ended up being one Mike, four Carl, one Joshua. So two people didn't get to vote. Now, any ideas as to who did not get to vote that night?
Oh my God. I remember all day during work, I was like going through the permutations of like who voted and who didn't vote. And I literally like was shocked. I was like, I could not figure this out. But I had a feeling that Danielle voted like voted the way she didn't say she did, right?
Okay.
And yeah, I like that vote made me distrust Danielle a lot.
Well, that basically sets the stage for what happens the next day, right? Because basically communication completely collapses between Mike and Olivia. And for you being in the middle of these two people who you're calling your day zeros, how did you did you feel like you had to pick a size, or were you trying to salvage that relationship at that point?
In my mind, I wanted to salvage it, but my actions were like, I have to pick a side because like, even though I wanted this day zero to be a real thing, I knew it couldn't be. But I really didn't like that we had to go after Olivia because for me, it felt like Danielle was.
Oh, so you believe Danielle? You believe that Danielle was the shady person here. So you didn't. So you believed Olivia's iteration version of events.
Thought I 100% thought I was on the same page as her. She never vocalized it to me, and I think if we had a chance to talk about what happened in the vote, the game would have gone so much more differently for me because I would have played.
You're saying that this game is a game of basically requires communication.
Oh my God, who would have thought, right? But like she never really talked to me because she was trapped in a room with Danielle and Mariana. And so like Mike and I are seeing this and we're like, oh, she's gone. Like we can't like keep her on our side anymore. And so that was the reason we had to put her name out there like that. But I think if Olivia and I got to talk a little more during that time, I think things would have gone much differently.
Okay, so then basically you guys end up voting for Olivia. Not, of course, fireworks during that crossroads, entertaining as heck. But for you guys, like, what were you thinking when that was happening live?
I was just like, here it goes again, because like just going back and forth all before crossroads, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I didn't realize, because I had only watched one season, that like you're supposed to bring the drama to crossroads. So I was just like always I have no idea.
You're not supposed to, but everyone loves some drama, Rima.
I really didn't know. But so I appreciated the fact that Mike was bringing the drama for the entertainment value.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was like such a stupid argument, honestly.
No, that's fair.
It's like, oh, Olivia lied, but yeah, it's like, even if she lied or didn't lie, it's all about self-preservation, right?
Drama is good when you're not at the center of it. Like I feel like if you bring drama to Crossroad, you better be sure that it's not centered around you. Like, because then you run the risk of potentially having it backfire on you. So so unfortunately that night the drama revolved around Olivia and Mike, and those were the two names that came up. Joshua's name also came up that night, but it ended up being Olivia who goes home. Well, actually Mariana also got a vote. So anyways, it was a little more complicated than that. Now, to piggyback off of that, Mariana playing that compass, was it a secret at this point that Mariana had it? Because I felt that before that, everyone got blamed, or at least at some point, everyone was thought to have had that compass. But I'm pretty sure that everyone knew she had the compass at that point, right?
Right. And
which is why she was forced to play it, because she was like, everyone knows.
I thought she played it the next night.
She played it that night. Mariana
Okay.
played it on herself that night.
Okay, yeah. So like, yeah, honestly, like, who are people gonna believe? Me or Mariana when I to say I don't have a compass? I'm pretty sure Mariana does. Right? Like, I never gave anyone a legitimate reason to not believe me. And like, I can't tell a freaking lie. So like, of course, like most people are gonna believe me. And
Well,
so
I know you. So
yeah.
so you believe that you were successful in convincing everyone at this point that you didn't have it, right?
Oh my God, yeah, because from like Rendezvous, it was like either because like according to Haley, she saw me, Mariana, and Philip in the room, right? And like Haley said she was able to figure out, but she was from like what Philip said, um, but she was like too late or whatever to getting the compass. And so for me, that certified that, it's either Haley or Mariana that had the compass. And I was like, it's really weird that Haley was able to pick up on what Philip was saying when he like left. So I was just like, maybe Haley might have it. But I knew for a fact I didn't have it. And so I made sure everyone else knew I didn't have it.
So I don't think I've told you this. But now that you're out of the game, I guess I can. Really funny story. When people were hunting for that compass, and Mariana specifically, there was something about a clue about playing in the snow. Right. And I have a picture on my Instagram playing in the snow with my cousins. And Mariana thought that was a clue to the compass. And so she sent that to Shane, thinking that I was the clue or something, right? Little did she know that on that same page, there were multiple pictures of you and me and the rest of the lab playing together. And I was like, holy shit, Mariana knows Bambi, knows me. If like, she knows that Bambi has like, because you basically were telling everyone that you've never played this game before, you don't know anything about this game. And now here you are on a fellow, like a former expedition cast member, and on his Instagram. So I was like, oh no, she's gonna like tell everyone, and she's gonna like, yeah. And I couldn't tell you about that either because I couldn't give you a heads up or anything, right? And so I was like, oh no, Mariana, no, she's gonna ruin your cover. And it didn't play out that way, but I was stressing out so much. And eventually I don't think she saw the snow, she skipped all the lab pictures, so you were good. But yeah, that's a fun little side story. Okay, so next night, I also, congratulations, because the night Olivia was voted out, you won that challenge. And this is actually very important because I think I want to make it clear here, okay? I designed that challenge, but you had no idea what to expect for that. Okay, yeah, let's just make that clear.
Well, so like, I didn't really get, like, I didn't know what questions to expect, but as soon as I started hearing what questions that were part of the challenge were being asked, I was like, oh, these are 100% Carl type of questions. Like, these are the only facts that Carl would know.
Okay, I thought you were going to say these are the only facts Carl knew. Carl knows a lot of facts other than those.
Oh, no. But it's just like, all of these questions were like, of course Carl's going to ask
and
that.
In fact, even though you did win the challenge, you won with a really bad answer rate.
I am aware because I think about some of the questions and I'm like, am I an actual idiot? Because
yeah.
Yeah.
4 Pokemon? Like, was it like you 4 like generation 1? Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. We're not here to debate that, but yeah.
I am aware. And then the fact that I didn't know like James Bond's number, for some reason I got in my head like, oh, Casino Royale. So like 777 is like a winning jackpot number. Yeah. And I totally forgot that 007 was his number.
Anyways, you ended up winning. So congratulations on your first win, your first and only win of this season. But to be fair, you had
only win.
Well, as an individual, but you were instrumental to many wins as part of the team, and you came very close multiple times, right? In fact, the next day, you were very competitive no, not the next day, and 2 days later, you were very competitive. Unfortunately, you ended up losing. But on the next night, basically, it was Danielle who won, and you guys ended up voting for Joshua.
It wasn't really an obvious vote because I kept gunning for Mariana.
Okay.
The entire time. I didn't want, like, I felt like I could use Josh a little longer, but I wasn't like sad to see him go. From what I remember, David was pushing Josh out more. And
but that's so interesting because if you wanted Mariana out, so why didn't you push for that more if that's what you wanted?
Right. Because I don't know why I didn't push for it more. I was like, just like, because I guess for me, the way I saw it, like, it doesn't matter who really goes home. Like, they both are in my favor, right? And so I was like, okay, I guess Josh can go. But I know, like at that point, I knew
who was
that
instrumental in switching your mind, and at that point, was there someone that basically pushed you to change your mind?
Right, and so I knew the two people I could trust were David and Mike. Okay. And you know, I kept telling David I want Mariana. Mike, I guess, was also telling David Mariana, but David was like Josh, and he was able to reason with us like why. And so when Mike and I
David was the one who changed your mind. Okay.
Yeah. So when Mike and I met there, we were like, I guess it's okay if we go with Josh. Like, and we reasoned it out together, like why.
Okay. And so funnily enough, Mariana played her Destiny's Token, and Josh obviously voted for Mariana, but everyone else did vote for Josh, so it was Josh's last night. And on the next round, unfortunately, David wins. David wins, and you're the one voted out.
Blindsided.
Blindsided. Okay, so describe to me why blindsided. Like at this point in the game, why did you not expect to have your name called out at all? Like
I just felt confident in me and Mike and David. Okay. I thought I really couldn't trust Danielle, but she was like kind of part of the day zero. So I really didn't know where she stood, but like I felt like I could kind of hedge my bets with her. But it was so weird because I remember like Danielle pulls me into a room and she was like, I don't know, it's gonna be me. And I'm a terrible liar, and I was like fully ready to vote for Danielle that night, right? And so like Mariana's name wasn't even like, we kept pushing her, but we weren't like getting any traction. So Mike and I were on board with Danielle that night. And so anyway, Danielle pulls me to a room and she's like, I don't know if I feel like it's me. And like I realized that was all for show, because regardless of whether or not like she played a compass, like she was going to be safe because the votes were against me. And so like I'm just like, I'm a little bit bitter of how she was like, you know, really dramatizing the vote out.
Well, I guess that leads us to basically the fact that you're a jury now. Would you say you're a bitter jury at this point?
Slightly bitter, but I can be swayed.
Okay, well, okay, so let's ask the tough questions then. What are you expecting to see from the 4 remaining players if they were to make it to the final in order to give them the vote? Would you say, first of all, that you have someone you would like to see make the final? I feel like I know the answer to that one. So who would you like?
Obviously Mike. And like honestly, I don't know like who voted me out, right? Regardless of who, like it was either Mike on my side or David on my side, right? Okay. And like regardless of whether or not Mike betrayed me, I would 100% vote for that guy, because this guy has played the best game, and honestly, I love that man so much.
So I guess it's pretty clear who you would like to see win the season. Now, is there any scenario where Mike doesn't get your vote and potentially the others get your vote?
If he's number one eliminated the next night,
Okay.
right? If there's a final 3 or final 2 and he just doesn't make it to the final to the end. Or if he was unable to convince me of how good of a game he played, even though I'm already convinced, like if he can't articulate it, then, and if someone else like David, who I think is very articulate, can convince me why he played a better game, that would be
Okay.
uh
Now
right.
let's be a little messy here. Who do you not want to see win the game?
I don't want to see Mariano win, just because I
You
always have
totally
tried.
answered. I didn't expect you to answer that question.
I don't want to see her win, but it's only because I never could trust her in the game, right? But if she's able to convince me, then she has my vote, right?
Okay.
Because like she, like for me, I didn't see her play a strategic game at all. I think she was what they call a goat. And
Mhm.
I tried to play a goat, but I think I was too present. I guess. I don't know. Like I think my abilities in the various competitions made me a target, but I don't think, like, I just don't see her really.
Do you think that that also played into why you were voted out last night?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I was right behind David for a while in that pyramid making
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so, like, I'm a strong player, like, in these challenges, which means nothing in the real world for the record. But yeah, I think like I was seen as a big target, big threat. And so yeah, but I think overall, like in terms of gameplay, I just don't see Mariana making like strategic moves. I think she's just been in the background, just like hoping to be someone's chat.
So so basically, if I'm hearing you right, you want whoever makes it to the final to take ownership of their games,
Oh,
essentially.
100%. I
Yeah.
want to know what like qualifies you to be in the final.
Okay. Okay. And you're a tiny little bit bitter.
Tiny little bit bitter, but it's like, I can set that aside, obviously, and see and like evaluate
Yeah.
whose game I admire the most.
Okay.
It's not only who played the best game, but who I think played with the best with the most integrity, I
Okay.
think. Because
Okay.
that's important for me.
That's an yeah. I mean, every jury is going to be different, and I think part of the challenge for the players left in the game is hopefully they've been thinking throughout the post rendezvous. Hopefully they started before, but mostly post rendezvous, they started thinking about how the jury that they are given will be voting, and hopefully they've been appealing
Right.
to the jury that this season has been given. And if they have, then they'll be the winners, and if they haven't, then unfortunately it's not going to be their season. Before I let you go, I've been asking everyone this as much as I could, as much as I can. What has been your highlight and your low light, or as Robert from season 2 would say, who's also happens to be your P0, your parental ancestor in the expedition game? What has been your rose and your thorn of the season?
My rose, I think, is being in alliance with Mike. I
Okay,
I think that
that's
elevated
that's
my
very cute. A little corny, but very cute.
I think that elevated my gameplay tremendously, because if it wasn't for him, I would always be completely out of the loop.
Okay.
Like, because I had my connection to the middleman, that like allowed me to play very strategic moves in terms of jury management, because a lot of the times I would vote against the way the majority was voting,
Voting.
and that
Okay.
was purposeful. Thorn, I think, was not talking to Olivia during her vote out, because I think in that moment it should have been Danielle.
Mm.
I think she was the shady person, and somehow we were all swayed to thinking that it was Olivia.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, with that, Rima, I want to thank you for giving me some time of your day today to do Back at the Ranch. And I want to really honestly just congratulate you again. You've made me proud. I know you made Robert. Robert let me know that you made him proud. And so many mods just really, really loved you. And I'm very happy you got to experience this. Now, we get to talk about Expedition all the time at work. And the rest of the lab doesn't get to understand exactly what we're talking about at all. So it'll be fun. And congratulations again on making it this far. You've matched my record, finishing in 5th.
But I beat more people.
Maybe. No, definitely. So yeah, thank you. With that, I'm gonna say goodbye and see all of you guys when I host Back at the Ranch next. See ya. Bye.
Bye.